Hello there, people of the internet. How's everybody doing today? Today I want to talk about 5 guns that would be used most effectively for the preservation of life and liberty here inside the United States. So number one, everybody sees this one coming, so I'm not going to stay on it for very long. The AR-15 platform. For obvious reasons, this is America's most popular rifle, chambered in 223 5.56. That's America's most popular rifle cartridge, with 308 and probably 30-06 coming up, at a solid second place. I'm willing to bet that the amount of 223 out there probably outclasses the amount of 308 and 30-06 just because of price point. So these are really, really good guns. Most of the ones you're going to find on the U.S. civilian market are going to have 16-inch barrels, and they're probably going to be something like a 1-in-7 twist, which is adequate enough to be able to do whatever job it is that most people would ever need one of these rifles to be able to do. Most of the ones that you get nowadays are going to have some sort of rail system on it, so you can accessorize it however it is that you want. And the beauty about these is it's very, very easy to swap out caliber. Like if you have a 223 5.56, fantastic, but let's say you want a 30 caliber of some kind, you can very easily swap out the barrel on these, and you would end up being able to get 300 blackout. Or let's say you want to do some really long distance shooting. Go out, swap out the barrel, and in this particular case the bolt as well, and you can actually fire 6.5 Grendel from this, which is a very capable AR platform long range cartridge. It's a 6.5mm round. Or you could, from that same bolt, I think you can also fire 6mm arc. The point is there are a lot of different options that you can pick to run through your AR to basically do whatever it is that you're wanting to do. Depending on legalities and what it is that you have going on, you can swap out the barrel for whatever length it is that you want, for whatever setup it is that you want. You can just swap out your uppers. You can adjust your length of pull with your stock to whatever it is that you want, assuming that you don't have a fixed stock. You can throw whatever iron sights or optics or scopes or mounts or lasers or lights or anything onto these things. They're just a really, really good do-everything rifle. And the amount of these that are circulating in the United States is just completely unfathomable, which is why this right here is probably our #1 Liberty Defense rifle. Now that being said, a lot of the ones on the market right now, or a lot of the ones that are circulating inside the United States, are probably going to be entry-level ARs just because of price points, but they're still going to be pretty good. They got about a 5,000 round lifespan on them, which most people are never going to reach within their lifetime. If you do end up reaching that, then you're probably going to see some issues with accuracy as the barrel wears out, and you're going to see some issues with bolt breakage on a lot of these guns. Like this is a Radical Firearms AR. I have seen 3 bolts break on these rifles. I think I even have 1, maybe even 2 of them documented on the YouTube channel if you want to go see those. But bottom line is, the 223 5.56 AR is probably going to be our top pick. So the second place, I'm sure is pretty obvious, is going to be the AK-47. Now, the beautiful thing about the cheap ARs is they're cheap and abundant, and most people aren't going to run them hard enough to ever break. Like, they're not going to get to the point to where they're not going to be usable in most cases. However, if we find ourselves in a really bad situation where things are going on for a long-term sort of situation, that's where the AK is going to shine. The AR needs maintenance. It needs parts replacements, especially your cheaper ARs. It needs to be upkept to be reliable and dependable versus something like the AK. You can run just an exceptionally large number of rounds through this rifle without ever having to clean it. I got no idea how many rounds I have on this particular AK, and I don't think I've cleaned it. I don't think I've cleaned it a single time. I'm so sorry, BB. Most of the ammo that you're finding in 7.62x39 here in the U.S., it's not going to be corrosive ammo, which is what you would find, say, over in comm block countries and whatnot. A lot of the stuff on the market nowadays is non-corrosive ammo, so you don't have to worry about cleaning and maintaining your AK. It's accurate and capable out to 3, potentially even 400 yards for the average person. Some people can touch out farther than that, but for the average person, most of us max out at 3, maybe 400 yards, even with a precision rifle, right? So it's definitely got the capabilities that most of us would ever need a rifle to be able to do. It's a 30 caliber rifle, scope mount on the side, or there's a rail mount on the side, so you can mount a Picatinny rail to this, so you can mount scopes or optics or whatever it is that you want on this thing. Or you got iron sights if you just want to rock the classic iron sights. These are simple rifles, they're dependable rifles. It's very, very hard to kill these rifles, and they last for a very, very long time. The 7.62 x 39 is a 123 grain bullet, moving at about 2,400 feet per second. And with non-corrosive ammo, dude, your barrel life is going to last pretty much forever. Unlike your ARs with that 3,000 to 3,200 feet per second bullet, you're going to have on a dirt cheap AR a 5, 6, maybe 7,000 round lifespan on that barrel before you start seeing significant diminishes in accuracy. But even if you were to get a really, really nice AR barrel, you might find 15,000 rounds on that barrel before you start finding a diminishing accuracy. Versus your AK barrels, where even the bottom of the barrel dirt cheap barrels end up lasting 30+ thousand rounds just because the round coming out of it is so slow. It's just not a barrel burner. So for a long-term thing, no maintenance on this rifle, no barrel burning. It's a good, adequate round for the distances that most engagements are going to be taking place at. This is just a good little rifle for anyone who decides to go the route of getting their hands on one of these. I think that absolutely makes the list of liberty defending guns here in the United States. Alright, up next, this is going to more or less be a genre of firearm versus a specific gun, but it's going to be iconic American guns, like for example, the lever actions. I don't care what your taste in firearms are, we all recognize the lever action as a classic American design, and it institutes the feeling of American freedom. So even the people who are, against people owning and using, say, ARs or AKs, more often than not, they're going to be fine with something like this, just because it is that classic design, that classic American gun that's kind of engraved in not only our gun culture, but our culture in general. Even people who aren't gun savvy will recognize something like a lever action and understand the history of the Wild West that it was in, although it came before what I would consider to be Wild West era. There's a whole lot of history that goes into the lever action series, but people recognize it, and way more often than not, if they like firearms even remotely, or they have even the most minute of interest in something like this, they're going to be on board. They're going to be okay with somebody owning and using something like this right here, which is one of the reasons why things like this would be so good at keeping in places where you normally wouldn't want to keep, like your modern day ARs or something like that, or your modern day setup AKs, because it might startle people and make them uncomfortable, and then people might start flipping sides as to what side of liberty they want to be on. But these lever actions, especially ones in more potent cartridges, like say 357 Magnum or 44 Magnum, or even ones in 30-30, or even ones in 45-70, they can be quite powerful and quite capable. The capacity limitations on these all depends on like the barrel length and the tube length of the your tube magazine, but the amount of ammunition that you can shove inside one of these should be adequate enough to take care of whatever situation it is you need to take care of. On top of that, assuming that you don't just completely mag dump the thing in fear of whatever's going on, you can top this off one round at a time and essentially keep this thing loaded indefinitely as long as you have the ammunition to run it. So that's just one example of an iconic American firearm. You go breaking out something else like this right here, got an M1 carbine. A lot of people recognize this from like World War II movies or shows or whatnot, or maybe they saw it in books or photos. Or you go breaking out something like the M1 Grand. Both of these would be extraordinarily good rifles to have as a Liberty defense rifle, especially because there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with an AR or AK, but dude, they would fall in love with something like this. And getting the mindset of people like that into, hey, we're in this together, we all love firearms and want to preserve our rights to these firearms. If you don't like the ARs or the AKs or anything like that, that's fine. I got these, which are still very capable. I think you'll like them. Here you go, Grandpa. Or here you go. I don't know. Insert your choice, whoever it is you're giving these to who don't want to run an AR or an AK. Bottom line, these iconic American guns gets the hearts and minds of people thinking about the preservation of our rights to keep and bear arms and maintain that liberty, and they do it more effectively than your modern day firearms like your ARs and AKs. So let's see, that is 1, 2, 3 AR, AK, iconic American firearms. On top of that, I do want to go ahead and throw in these right here. This is another kind of genre of firearm. It's going to be Glocks and Glock clones. There's so many different Glock clones out there. They all fall into the same category. I don't care what brand it is that you get. I don't care what caliber you get. But these right here, these polymer frame Glock style firearms have long since proven themselves to be a very effective means to be able to carry around an extraordinarily effective firearm for not a lot of weight and not a lot of cost. I know a lot of these Glock clones that you find out there on the market, with those polymer frames, they end up not being very expensive, and they end up being very, very easy and simple to produce. I know that right now we got a lot of 40 caliber surplus on the market, so the 40 caliber Glock clones are definitely the cheapest and easiest to get your hands on, but 9mm Glock clones out there are really inexpensive as well. But very simple. It's a tilting barrel action, very similar to a lot of other things that you see out there on the market. If you see the top of the barrel right there, you can see it kind of tilt down. That is a Browning design. It's a very, very simple design, very cheap, but very reliable design. It's easy to mass manufacture something like this. And if everybody had a handgun on them of some type that was of this genre, that was very capable versus some other things that might be a little less capable that we're not going to get into. I'm going to tell you right now, carry whatever it is that you want. Nobody should be able to dictate what you do and do not carry. But people looking specifically just for practical firearms, something like this right here would do really, really well. If we all had something like this on us, just imagine the possibilities of how much more deterred basically everyone would be to try and control everyone else, or to try and take things from everyone else. If everybody had something like this on them, these right here would be fantastic liberty preservation guns, especially because you have a really capable firearm for not a lot of money. Glocks and Glock clones, for the amount of gun that you get, they're very inexpensive. Now, if you get a 9mm, you'll probably carry more ammo, but this 40 Smith & Wesson already carries 14 rounds of ammunition, and I've got 2 magazines for it. So that should be a fair, adequate amount of ammunition to put down whatever threat it is that you're coming across. All right, number 5. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in as the number 5, but man, there's so many other options that are out there. I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out real quick before I talk about my number 5. And my shout out's going to be any military surplus gun. There is a lot of people out there who will recognize a lot of these old military surplus rifles, like this is a Mosin Nagant, and they'll either remember good times of whenever they could buy this stuff for dirt cheap, back whenever it was like actually known to be surplus versus the collectible items that it is today, or they'll recognize it from like video games or movies or whatever pop culture reference it is that they're going to recognize these guns from. You show someone a Mosin Nagant, and if they've ever, I don't know, seen Enemy at the Gates, they're like, oh my god, I know that rifle. I want to be able to keep the right to own that rifle. Or if they've seen, I don't know, insert your choice of reference here. If they've watched Band of Brothers and you show them, say, a Kar 98. This right here is a Yugoslavian Mauser, but it's close enough to a Kar 98. Ah, here we go. I got my actual Kar 98 right here. You show them a Kar 98, and then they're like, oh, I know exactly what that is. I've seen that in XYZ video game or movie or show or whatever. And you're like, yeah, this is the real deal. Don't you want to be able to continue to own these? It's just a good way to get the hearts and minds of people into the idea of preserving our right to be able to use these things. All right, next on our list, and our last firearm, these are not in any particular order. I'm going to have to give it to the 1911. Now, this one's kind of a controversial one, I know, I'm sure, but the 1911 is one of those guns that would be exceptionally capable while at the same time also winning the hearts and minds of people. It's such a well-known firearm in American culture. Even people who aren't gun savvy or people who don't live and breathe firearms like, say, me and probably you do while watching this, even people like that know about the 1911. It's in so many video games, it's in so many movies, it's in so many books, it's in so many references. There's so many people in American culture who have so much experience around this handgun. Not only that, but it's a very capable handgun. If you have one of these chambered in 45 ACP, the original design, that's fantastic. But you can go out and get yourself a 2011, say a double stack 9mm or a double stack 45 ACP or whatever caliber it is that you want to run it in. People would still recognize it as a 1911 type handgun. They can be exceptionally capable. Like if you have a 1911 with, say, an 8-round magazine like what I have right here, and you have multiple magazines, something like this right here, although there are better platforms out there on the market, this gets the eyeballs on the gun. This makes people say, hey, that is really cool. I like that. I recognize it, as opposed to somebody, say, just utilizing a Glock, in which case that's just there for practical purposes. This has the capability of being able to utilize what is necessary to achieve those practical purposes, but also has the capability of being a really, really cool little gun that is going to make a lot of people come across the gun and be like, hey, I really like that. I want to get my hands on something like that. I think that we need to preserve our rights and liberties to be able to do that. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add the 1911 to this list. So there we go, guys. That is my list on liberty-preserving firearms. I think I had a pretty gosh darn good list here. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.